All right, for this video, we are going to be talking about Scorpio 7th house. Dun, dun, dun. So before I get into it, I have my email in the description if you have any questions. I have my website in the description if you want to book a reading for me. I offer a wide variety of different readings. I also started an email list. So if you sign up for that, you get exclusive discounts and you also get weekly astrological insights and forecasts. So it's all very exclusive, but it's open to everybody. It's exclusive, but inclusive at the same time. So let's get into it. And just so you know, I did all the other 7th house. I did Aries. I did everything through Virgo. So now we're going to talk about Scorpio. Okay. Whew. Scorpio 7th house is a total doozy, as I'm sure you already know. So people who have a Scorpio 7th house are more likely in early romantic development, like a common pattern, a common karmic theme here, unfortunately centers feelings of betrayal. So if you have a Scorpio 7th, it's not uncommon to have experienced infidelity. Like your first relationship might have been one that ended in a huge feeling of loss. So again, you know, feeling betrayed, feeling cheated on, being ghosted, being abruptly dropped. Like there can just be a blindsiding type of feeling. And sometimes this betrayal energy can stem all the way back to childhood. Your parents might have engaged in some type of infidelity, like maybe one parent cheated on the other. Maybe there was a financial betrayal. There might have been something going on with your parents that kind of signaled to you that relationships are emotionally risky. That can definitely kind of alter the type of people you go after, because in a sort of backwards way, we tend to attract people who poke at our wounds. So in early romantic development, you might have attracted people who poke at your fear of betrayal by betraying you. So it's really, really blah. And it's also common for people with Scorpio 7th to have divorced parents, separated parents. That's another way that feeling of like loss and betrayal can kind of first surface for you and impact how you perceive relationships and romance moving forward. Now, another tricky thing in early romantic development, in dealing with like betrayal, infidelity, feelings of loss, you might be attracted to people who are in other relationships. I'm not accusing people who have Scorpio 7th house of being cheaters themselves, but let's be real. In astrology, the theme is there. Betrayal and infidelity. That theme exists. So we can interpret that theme as you being subjected to experiencing it unfavorably, such as being the one who is cheated on. But for some, they perpetuate the theme. They do the thing that is not favorable. So some are on the receiving end, some are on the giving end, okay? Some are the ones perpetuating that theme of betrayal by engaging in those behavioral patterns in their own relationships. It's not uncommon to have commitment issues here as a result of having been betrayed in childhood or witnessing relationships that were just not healthy. So people with Scorpio 7th as well can associate aggression with passion and love. Very similar to Aries 7th house. And that is because both Aries and Scorpio traditionally are ruled by Mars. Now I currently, I look to Pluto, I look to modern rulers, but even Pluto as a planet is very destructive. It's also very passionate, and the problem here is that if you have a Scorpio 7th, you might have learned to associate domestic disharmony with domestic bliss, basically. You might think that the more you are in a relationship that requires a fight, a daily fight, you might associate that with like, oh, this relationship is worth it. You shouldn't be fighting every day. You need to know the red flags, basically. You need to be able to spot them, and that will help you. Like people with Scorpio 7th, you have to be a little more tuned in to understanding when someone is kind of projecting or exhibiting behaviors that could be abusive down the line. I know that's really serious, but it is what it is, okay? And that's because Scorpio is a very destructive sign. Now, it's also very transformative. So the benefit here, and there is a benefit, I promise, is once you learn to have healthy boundaries and spot those red flags like ahead of time, because you can. I'm a firm believer that you can learn pretty early on, like what behaviors an individual is expressing that are a testament to like their character, their love language. You just gotta not be naive. Like, don't be willfully ignorant. Be aware. Utilize your intuition. There's a reason, Scorpio, when it comes to your 7th house, Scorpio 7th, you have your intuition and it's projected in that area of life. So use it. Trust your gut when it comes to your dating life, okay? I promise it will help you. It will save you. But the benefit here is you can undergo a very transformative process and healing journey when it comes to romance. So even though it can be painful at times, some of your early romantic experiences, it can lead you to a place where, like, on a deep, deep personal level, you experience this sense of romantic renewal. So the best thing about Scorpio 7th house is the fact that Scorpio, in a lot of cases, similar to Libra, it does rule over commitments. It rules over the things that we like attach ourselves to. So despite the potential for chaos, okay, getting married is kind of expected here, because also Scorpio can rule over other people's assets and finances. So when you get married, there's a merging of assets, there's a merging of money. So Scorpio 7 can definitely show the more legal components of getting married, signing contracts, merging finances, or, you know, prenups, whatever, you just getting your finances in order for that marriage, basically. So that's a good indication of getting married. The tricky thing is you just want to make sure you're being mindful and discerning when it comes to choosing your partner the first go around. People with Scorpio 7th are at a slight increased risk of undergoing a separation following marriage. I don't want this to worry you. It's just something you have to be mindful of. You can mitigate it. You can absolutely mitigate it by being like aware and, again, taking preventative care, spotting those red flags ahead of time. That can really help you, not rushing into romance, things like that. But in a favorable expression, you can attract a partner who's very loyal, very trustworthy, very protective of you, very defensive of you, a partner who basically kind of mirrors your ability to commit in partnerships. You can have like a ride or die partner, basically. And this is great for a long-term sustainable relationship. Unless the person with Scorpio 7th has some serious intimacy issues, which can happen. And that's when you get that infidelity from the actual Scorpio 7th houser. This can note a sustainable long-term marriage. So it's not common for Scorpio 7th housers to have flings and short-lived things. Even if you are in a relationship with someone with no title, like there's technically no commitment, that relationship can go on forever. Okay, Scorpio 7th, it attracts obsessive lovers. It attracts just this sense of intensity that makes it really hard to let go of exes. It makes it really hard to let go or sever a connection that has already been established, which is why it's all the more important that you take preventative care ahead of time so you avoid unfavorable people, because it can be that much harder to sever the tie. And that is because Scorpio, similar to Taurus, all about longevity, sustainability, playing the long game. So having like little flings is not very common here at all. Now, the interesting thing here, because Scorpio rules over death, and I don't want that to scare you at all, it's not necessarily like just death, although in some cases, yes, but it's like a lot of the times metaphorical, or it's, you know, death followed by renewal, rebirth. This could indicate marrying a widow, like someone who was previously widowed, someone who was previously married. This can also indicate marrying someone who was previously married and is now divorced. So you can basically marry someone who has already been married. And that's where some of that, I know I said earlier, there's like an increased risk of separation. That's another way that energy can manifest. It can actually just more point to your partner. So if you have Scorpio 7th, you are also at an increased chance of marrying someone whose partner previously passed, or someone who was, you know, previously married and is now divorced. So that's another way that death followed by renewal energy can manifest. It's not always about you, but your partner. Now, because Scorpio 7th house is so passionate, this could note having a really healthy and passionate bedroom life. So if you do get married, you're likely to marry someone who's very healing for you when it comes to physical intimacy, which is a really good benefit here, because sometimes people with Scorpio 7th can have some physical things that make them feel like insecure, self-conscious, or just there's like baggage there. So your partner can be very healing when it comes to the physical intimacy you share together. And that can definitely be like prioritized in the relationship. That might be a way that you and your partner really connect on an emotional, intimate level. Now, another thing about Scorpio 7th house is you might wind up marrying someone who works in finance, someone who deals in other people's assets and belongings. So this could also note being with someone who works in real estate, being with someone who just works works in some type of field where they have to like acquire properties and acquire assets. And this could note being with someone who works in like investments and stocks. I don't know if I already said that, but yeah, your partner can have a career where they deal with other people's things. Your partner can also have a career that allows for passive income, and not just passive income, but also income that comes in huge chunks at once. And then maybe there's like a little bit of a dry period, so they can make a lot of money at one time, and then maybe there's like an extended time where they're not making anything, maybe because they're waiting for some other thing to like come through or whatever. But you can marry someone wealthy. Okay, you can marry someone who works in like a very financially lucrative field, but also a field that might involve some financial risk. So it's like you gotta play big to win big, or whatever that quote is. So that's an interesting thing here. And in dealing with finances, if you have Scorpio 7th, you might attract a partner who cares very much about their financial security and also about their financial status in life. So I'm not saying your partner will be image obsessed per se, but you know, Scorpio is, they are very passionate and they want a lot of power in life. So your partner can kind of exhibit some of those traits where, you know, they're very hardworking, but they definitely want some of the power and the control that comes with that. Now, because Scorpio is such an intimate sign, this energy works really well for having children with your spouse. There's a sense of fertility here. And it's just because having children with your spouse and starting a family, it's such an intimate endeavor, and it really further binds you and connects you for ever, basically. Like, regardless of what happens in the relationship, if you have kids, you have kids. Like, you are tied forever. And that brings me to my next point, which is if you have a Scorpio 7th house, when you and your partner meet, it can feel like an instant recognition, and it can also kind of feel like love at first sight. And at least, if not love at first sight, passion at first sight, even if the passion is like, you're kind of annoying, or I feel some type of way about you. There's usually an instant sense of passion, and it can be like, I want to tear your clothes off type of passion. Like, it can really be that intense. Now, it might be kind of a slow burn, which is good. Let the tension and the passion build. The mysterious component of Scorpio energy makes it so that you and your partner have a really sacred bond. You probably both respect privacy within the relationship, meaning you don't want other people to interfere with your connection. So you keep your relationship sacred, you keep it reserved, you keep it private. The worst thing you could do with Scorpio 7th, to someone with Scorpio 7th house, is like tell their secrets, or, you know, spill the beans on something that they didn't want you to. Even if you're saying it to like a family member, an in-law, just don't. Wait for them to say it. You really don't want to betray their trust in any way. So people with Scorpio 7th are very sensitive about like what you tell outsiders. Basically, everything has to, the relationship has to come before everything else. I know that sounds really intense, but that is Scorpio 7th all the way. The relationship has to come before all else. So if you want to go blabber, like let's say the person with Scorpio 7th just found out they're pregnant. If you want to go blabber to everyone, to your mom, to your family, that they're pregnant without their permission, because, you know, they're going to want to do it right, that's a huge betrayal of trust to them. Like, you really need to consult them before you say anything to others. And also the same is true for like the domestic space you share. You want to keep your domestic space private and reserved just for you two. Now, in terms of where you can meet someone, if you have Scorpio 7th, I would say this is kind of similar to Cancer 7th. This is such an intimate sign, and it's very personal. So I would say I know this probably isn't the answer you're looking for, but you probably want to look to where other things are in your chart. So you want to look to where your Venus sign is, and you're also the sign associated with your Venus. You want to look more to your 5th house. You want to check out your Juno placement. There's other things that can kind of help, and it's also going to depend on what's in your 7th. Like, let's say you have Scorpio Saturn in your 7th house. That can note meeting your partner at work, in a professional environment. If you have Sun in your 7th, that can note meeting your partner at a party, at an event. So it's really more so going to depend what's in your 7th, what your descendant is an aspect to, or like where your Venus is. Okay, that's pretty much everything I can think of off the top of my head for Scorpio 7th. As always, it is going to depend on what celestial bodies or points are in your 7th house, what your descendant is an aspect to, like I was saying, and other factors going on in the chart. So there's a lot of moving pieces here, but that is like the gist. I hope this made sense. I hope it resonated. You can feel free to let me a comment. Feel free to leave a comment letting me know if it resonated with you. And again, I have all my information in the description, my website if you want to book a reading, and my email list if you want to join. And feel free to like and subscribe if you feel so inclined and you want to see more content of mine.